We are live, folks. Thank you for joining me on the live webcast for Exposed and Fearless. If you are one of my backers, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. This has been an amazing experience. If you're not one of my backers, thanks for joining me anyway. And maybe you can make it to the show. There's the premiere is sold out through Kickstarter, but there are other shows that I'm doing, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I'd like to introduce some special guests that I've had. I've told in the updates that I would have Brian South, and Brian is here. Brian, if you say hello so your screen goes big.
Hello, so my screen goes big.
Very good, just on cue. Brian South is Mr. Amazing. That's what I'll call Brian South. If you are from the magic community, you would know him probably more as Brian Daniel, or if not, you would know his company Creative Magic, that now is owned by lots of people. He sold off the company to portion holders, which both myself and the other person on this call, Dal Sanders, we are both portion holders. But Brian is also a Kickstarter extraordinaire, with two successful Kickstarter projects, decks of cards. That one was amazing, and it really was amazing, and the other was different, but I think was probably even more amazing. And we'll talk to Brian in a bit about a whole bunch of things. The other person we have is Dal Sanders. Dal, if you could say hello, make your screen big.
Hello, and I'm not going to do the joke because it's already been done. So.
Okay.
Which you're really sad about. I knew you wanted to do it. That's why I did it.
You know, I live for bad jokes like that.
I know.
So, knowing that Dal lives for bad jokes, you can probably assume that he is a magician, and he is. He is also the national president of the Society of American Magicians.
Did you guys hear about the Roman that walked into a bar and ordered 5 beers?
It's going to be something Roman numeral, I know it. Okay, yeah. Perfect. All right. So if anyone else is still tuned in at this point,
it's not too late to change your panel, Vinny.
But Dal is the national president of the Society of American Magicians. He has consulted on a lot of creative magic props or effects that have been produced. Isn't that correct?
Yep.
And Dal also writes a national show that I can't really say much about, but he's been doing that for years and years and years. And he's a very active lecturer, performer, and has careers in magic, in another field related, and music as well. He writes songs and everything else. So well-rounded Dal Sanders out of Texas, Brian South out of Utah, and the most amazing thing about Brian right now is he's a new daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Daniel nearby? Or?
No, we thought that wouldn't be a good idea.
Okay. So, but he looks quite awake for having an infant. Him and his wife Rebecca.
You know, if Daniel was around, Brian would be so distracted.
Yeah. Here. This is, let's see if it'll focus in. There he is.
Oh.
Yay.
That's the whole internet going, oh.
He's awesome.
So, what did I want to say now? Okay, so let me, those are introduction. You can see that there's a place on here where you can throw in questions. So if you have any questions that you want to ask about the book, about the show, about Brian, about Dal, about myself, or meaning of life, anything you want, post the questions and we will try to get to some of the questions as this goes on. Let me give you a status of the book, because if you are a backer of this project, you more than likely are getting the book, whether it's electronic or in hard copy form. Or both, and the book is moving along. I have the greatest motivator you could imagine, which is my mother calling me each and every day, wondering what is the status, and you shouldn't be doing that because you should be writing the book. but it is coming along. I've been spending actually quite a bit of time on the road with some of the people that are in the book, and I've had conversations yesterday with some of the other folks, and really as I continue to spend time with these people, I'm learning more and inserting more pieces into the book. But I am excited for it. It will be available in time for the show, which is March 21st. So the people that are going to the premiere of the show, they will have the book with them there, and the rest of you folks will be mailed out to you at that point. Not sure when our international folks will get the book, but I also have kind of an exciting, well, I guess it's kind of exciting. It's a little bit of an exciting note about the book, and that's everyone is getting an upgraded book. And what I mean by that is the people that just ordered the book, you are going to get what the people that paid the extra money to get a limited edition book, you are going to get that limited edition book. The people that that paid for the limited edition book will get the first numbers, the first, so I don't know how many there were, but the first so many of the limited edition. In addition to the limited edition, if you did the limited edition, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I have the mousetraps, the decks of cards, and the forks that were the Twisted Forks signed by Banachek, and the decks of cards signed by Richard Turner, and the mousetraps signed by Colin and Brad. And you will get those with your limited edition book. So that's another little bonus thank you for supporting the project. The show is, I'm really, really, really excited about the show. I have an awesome, awesome talent helping me with the show, because it isn't going to be just a collection of effects or magic tricks or things. These are routines based on real people that are inspiring, and there's a thread kind of woven throughout the show. There's a first half that's more on exposing you to these people and some of the amazing things that they do, and then the second half of the show is more on fear and getting over your fears and how fear affects us in our lives. And I have Ricky Brandon, who outside of the Magic community, you probably don't know him. Inside the Magic community, he's done a lot of work with Rick Thomas in the past, but he's just a brilliant writer, and we've been having a lot of fun working on this stuff, and I'm really excited about it. If you are in the upstate New York area, on Monday, March 3rd, at the Saratoga Arts Center on Broadway, 320 Broadway in Saratoga, I'm going to do a preview of the show to kind of work some of the kinks out of this show. And if you go to exposedandfearless.com, you can get tickets for the preview. If you are going to be in the New York area and you did not get tickets to the premiere that was sold out through Kickstarter, and that's March 21st, on March 22nd, I'm going to do a 3 o'clock show and a 7 o'clock show. And tickets will be available on exposedandfearless.com soon, in another week or so. So there's still an opportunity to come and see the show. The premiere, good news at the premiere, we have an after party, and that was included in the VIP section, but I'm essentially opening that up to the entire audience that is at the going to the premiere, and that will be in the venue itself. The party will be there. We'll have it catered. VIP folks, you will be getting special seat treatment, so I'll be in touch with you soon about where you want to sit. You'll be able to pick out your own seats, first choice on the seats, and we'll have something special extra for you as well. So everybody's getting upgraded here with Exposed and Fearless.
Are you going to tell us a little bit about this theater, Vinny?
Sure. It's the Gene Frankel Theater. It is in the Village, 24 Bond Street in New York City. New York City. It's a small, very intimate theater. I have it set up. I have it configured for 70 seats. It's a black box theater. There's 40 seats on the floor. 4 rows of 10. Only 10 going across. And then there's another 30 seats that are movie theater style seats, and they're elevated, they're raked up, and they're 4 wide, and it's 8 rows back, but the last 2 rows are just 3 seats across. So it's a very nice, close, intimate space, and everyone's going to have a great view. It's going to be a nice, intimate show, and I can't tell you how excited I am about the show. I'm really looking forward to doing it, and this kind of transitions well into just the fear part of this whole book, because Brian Dow and I were talking. Well, we talk a lot, but we were talking beforehand, and one of the things with Fearless is how you're not really fearless. People aren't really fearless, but there is a level of a lower level of fear that you could have that is easier to get over, and I talk about ways to reduce your level of fear in the book, and some theories and methods I have on that. But it's also, fear is not necessarily a bad thing. Fear can be a great motivator, and I've had a fear of writing, and when you read the book, my opening chapter, you'll learn exactly why I had a fear of writing. And so this Kickstarter project has been a great thing for me. I've had this show in my head for years, and I've wanted to do it for years, and just haven't been able to flesh it out. And putting it out there on Kickstarter, and then forcing myself with this deadline to do it, and then also getting the tremendous help from Ricky has been amazing. So it's getting over my fear of finishing this thing and doing it. So thank you for helping me overcome one of my fears, and use it as a piece of motivation. I'd like to talk a little bit about my guests right now. I'll start with, because on my screen from left to right, it's Brian first. So Brian, you have we've chatted a little bit, and I've asked Brian one of the things that he has a fear of, and it's been speaking. Is that correct? Public speaking?
Yes. I thought that was just between you and me. We're gonna. This
No,
gets
we
to the
want to put
exposed part, right?
Yeah. So this is what amazes me about Brian is he's a performer. He's not only does he have the company or the companies with creating magic, but he's a performer. I mean, a lot of the creative magic, and if I'm speaking out of turn, correct me, came from wanting to. He had a big illusion show that he was doing at a theme park, and then tried to do that show in other venues, and it was just a tremendous amount of load in and time with props and expense and all of that, and he wanted to streamline that, so he started creating illusions that were easy to pack up and set up and travel with and all of that, and from that he created a super successful company, Creative Magic. Isn't that correct? Did I get it right?
About it. Yeah, it got to a point where performing was no longer fun because there was so much setup and takedown and schlepping, and props would break, and I just realized I probably wasn't the only one with that problem, and started to solve it, and the rest was history. But then the same thing happened with Creative Magic. It got to a point where it wasn't fun anymore, and I was spending a lot more time dealing with manufacturing issues and shipping issues, and just customer maintenance and things like that, and less time creating and developing. And so I've discovered about myself, when things start to get boring and fun, they're not fun anymore, I just move on to the next thing. So we sold that company and moved on to Teach by Magic, where ironically my main focus is public speaking. I do workshops with teachers, but we're overcoming that fear. But I wanted to address, you mentioned Kickstarter as a way of overcoming fears. I like you said, I've done 2 Kickstarters, and for anyone out there that's that's got a project kind of percolating in the back of their mind, Kickstarter is a good way. It's the equivalent of jumping in the ocean to learn how to swim. You will learn how to swim. It kind of forces you to get outside your comfort zone. And if you're thinking about writing a book, it could be years before you actually get around to pen on paper. But once you commit and you've got people's money, and your mom calling you, but I've found for me with Creative Magic, with Teach by Magic, all of my companies that have been successful, it's because I commit myself. I tell people this product is coming out in a month, and then I call up my friends and go, help, I promised a product in a month. And that's where having good friends comes in to make sure you deliver a good product. But I'm a fan of Kickstarter because it does what it says. It kickstarts things. It makes things happen that otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah. I should also note, not only is Brian afraid or has a fear of public speaking, which a lot of people do, and is a performer, he also has hand tremors, and he does magic, which is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's part of my fear in public speaking. It happens all the time that people come up to me and they go, "Are you nervous?" when I'm not nervous. And so when I am nervous, forget about it. My hand shakes like a wet dog. But the other half of my fear of public speaking is that I just have a fear of under-delivering. And so even when I've done a workshop 100 times and I know it's solid, I know the comment cards come in that they loved it. I actually had a workshop recently where I went over, a teacher workshop, I went over for half an hour, and I thought, I was stalling. I thought we were supposed to get out at 4 and we were really supposed to get out at 3, and around 3:30 I'm like, well, because we have some extra time, let's do this, and I was totally stalling, and the person who hired me said, actually, you're half an hour over. But the 50 some odd teachers that were there, not one of them complained, and they even said, no, keep going, finish out whatever you wanted to do, because they were liking it so much. And so even knowing how much teachers love it, I still will get butterflies, because not because I'm necessarily nervous to perform or to speak, but because I desperately want people to be exceptionally pleased with everything I do and say. And so that's where that anxiety comes from, is I want to deliver 120% every time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, Vinny, what's your advice for me? That's what as the author of this book, I want. Is it good? Is it bad? What this fear I have? Should I be trying to conquer it?
No. One of the things that I've even come to discover more as I've been writing and interviewing and talking with other people is having a level of fear is a really good thing. If you think of some of these like extreme activities or sports that you would be like, oh my God, that you have to be crazy to do something like that, where there's whether it be jumping out of an airplane, skydiving, people that skydive, or even other activities like scuba diving or skiing. And you hear about accidents that happen with skydiving, accidents that would happen with scuba diving, or even with skiing, and they generally happen to the most experienced, knowledgeable people. The rookie skydiver is not the one that has the accident. It's the one that has 500 jumps under their belt. And it's because, and in the book I talk about fear being when you have knowledge without experience or experience without knowledge, you have fear of an activity. But if you have both of them, your level of fear goes down. If you have the knowledge of the activity and the experience of the activity, it can bring down your level of fear. And with these experts or pros, their level of fear is so low that they then don't give the activity, the dangerous activity that they're about to do, the amount of respect that it deserves, and that they gave it when they had less experience and less knowledge of what was going on. So, Brian, I think you certainly have knowledge and experience of speaking. You do it often, and the fact that you are maintaining a level of fear is probably a good reason why you're continuing to do really well at it. that you're still getting these comment cards. You can also see it in for any of the people that are magicians out there. I think you find when you've done a routine over and over and over again, there's sometimes there's a point where it keeps getting better, and then it reaches a point where if you don't give it that energy or that the respect, it can be very stale. I mean, Dal does a show. Geez, well, throughout a year, how many times will you do the same show?
I have two main shows that I do a lot, and one show I'll do 350, 400 times a year. The other show I'll do a couple hundred times a year.
Right. So you're doing like this one show. You're doing maybe 4 or 5 times in a day.
Yes.
The same show over and over. So, I mean, what do you do to kind of stay fresh with it? Because it isn't a fear thing. I don't think you're ever afraid up there that it's not going to work or I'm not going to do it. But you still have to do something to kind of have that same butterfly effect that you would have when you did it the first time when you had that fear.
There's always the fear of the unknown because I use assistants in the show, and people coming up to help you are always going to throw a monkey wrench into it somewhere. I mean, you're probably feeling the same thing just having Brian and I here to talk about your book. You don't know what we're going to say or ask you, but that's the thing that causes the fear and keeps things fresh. Knowing that every show really it's going to be the same, but it's going to be different. You're looking for a certain level of planned spontaneity, if you will. You want it to look fresh every time, and it is fresh every time. But at the same time, you want it to go by plan. It's exactly what you're doing with your book. You've planned this whole project out, and it's being spontaneous at the same time. You keep finding new things out about it as you go along, and that's a good thing. That's what makes you a better performer, a better writer. In Brian's case, Brian was talking about it. About his fears, and I'm thinking to myself, that's just good business, and that's what makes Brian a good businessman, because he's got this fear of failing. He over-delivers, and certainly I've been the lucky recipient of that over-delivery.
Yeah, I have as well.
More than once.
Because every 2 months I was for a couple of years. It was great.
Yeah. And,
well, and Dal, I'd like to kind of dig a little deeper with you because you're a full-time performer, and you were telling Brian and I earlier that when you were 5 years old, you still weren't talking. Can you explain a little bit about what you went through as a child?
Okay, when I was a child, a baby is born now. They are thoroughly checked. Everything. I'm substantially older than you guys, and they just would look us over, especially since I was born on an Air Force base. I think I cost my parents $7 or something.
Wait, what? The Air Force wasn't created. Was it still part of the Army, or it had already divided at this time?
I'm going to see you in person sometime soon, and I will get even through inflicting large amounts of pain on you. So don't mess with Texas. Yeah, no, actually, it had just split from being part of the Army. Actually, I think it might have even still been called the Army Air Force, to tell you the truth. But that's okay. That's anyway. I was born on an Air Force base, and so I wasn't checked out well, and I just literally could not use my tongue. It was attached to the bottom of my mouth. I had trouble swallowing too. But got to the age where I shouldn't be speaking, and I would and couldn't use my tongue. We don't really think about how much we use our tongue until we just try to talk by laying it down in the bottom of your mouth and not moving it at all. And so finally a doctor looked at my mouth and says, and I was wide awake. There was no putting me to sleep or anything. He said, "Oh, look at this." He got out these scissors and started clipping away at stuff that was keeping my tongue from moving. And I mean, I remember the blood coming out of my mouth, a 5-year-old blood, and this may be why I'm still, kind of leery of doctors. And then I had to start the long process of learning how to use my tongue. I went to I went to Easter Seals Clinic in Miami, Florida. My teacher was a lady called Mrs. Stein, and she was, oh man, she was very, very small, very, very small, had a hunch, and was blind and didn't wear glasses, so you could see the eyes that couldn't see anything. Basically, she was the witch that put Hansel and Gretel in the oven. But she was also a wonderful, wonderful lady. Once I got over looking at her, she made me learn to read at 5, and I started speaking slowly, and I would, read these books, and today I still think about every single syllable I say before I say it, which is very time consuming, which is why I don't talk very fast too. It's
yeah. When did you start performing?
Oh, I was 25.
What's that? Oh, you're 25. So when did you?
That's when I started performing magic. I started acting when I was 13.
13. So from 5 to 13, you had to learn how to speak.
5. I was in speech class till I was 11, and then when I was 13, I started acting.
Now, is there any way we can reverse the operation now?
You read my mind.
Okay.
Poor Dal, he's going to be picking on me.
These are my friends, okay? These two are two of my closest friends.
Yeah, that's great.
I am the weeping boy.
So, I'd like to actually turn the reins over to both of you now that Dal is sufficiently primed to make fun of me, and see if you guys can ask questions that maybe the audience might have, because this is going to be, it's live right now, and I can see we have some viewers here, and please post a question if you would like to. But it's also going to be recorded, and most of the people that can't watch it right now are going to watch it on demand later. So you guys are kind of going to be the interviewers for them. So
hey, I want to jump right in, okay, Vinny?
Mm-hmm.
When you first presented this book idea, I don't know if you remembered, I kind of raised an eye and I said, "Why are you doing this?" So let me ask you again, why did you decide to do this?
It's a great question. I've done a talk at RPI, and the name of the talk is Captivate Your Audience, and it was part on getting over your fears, and then part of it was using performance artist techniques to be more creative. The audience is mostly engineers and science people. There are some business folks as well, but very logical thinking folks, and I wanted to show techniques that I have observed from being around performers and performing myself to get the creative process going, and they're actually very logical processes. So half of the talk was on fear, half of the talk was on that portion, and I wanted to kind of more commercialize the talk more. It was great for this particular situation, but I felt that there was a better talk in it. And actually, speaking with Brian a while back, Brian was telling me I shouldn't be, working on just a standard magic show, and I should be doing more of speaking, more based on that what I was doing. And I learned that the best way to promote yourself as a speaker is to have a book. It's a piece of credibility. It's your marketing tool. So I wanted to write this book, and also talking again with Brian. I guess maybe can I cut and paste that?
I'm thinking you should stop talking to me.
Right.
I'm just going to get you in trouble.
No, Brian turned me on to the whole Kickstarter way of doing it. So I explored with people in the publishing industry if I were to just write the book and present it to a publisher versus going the Kickstarter route. And the Kickstarter route was it's more than just getting the project done. It's also a way of pre-promoting the project and seeing what kind of interest you can generate from it and that's there for it. And you also learn a lot during the process about your project and kind of the idea that I had when I started the Kickstarter versus what I had post Kickstarter funding portion, and now this section of working on it to deliver it has changed, or not in essence, but it has definitely grown and matured through that process. And the Kickstarter forces you to do it. If I had to write this book to give to a publisher and see if they would want to publish it and go forward with it, it would never be done. My mother would not be on the phone with me every day talking about it because she wouldn't care. The fact that she told friends that I was writing a book and they backed the project, now she cares. So I felt Kickstarter was the best way to go. Also, because if I did go with a publisher first, the length of time that it takes to do that, even after your manuscript is done, is quite long, and I wanted to do things a lot quicker. So I will take this book, and the editor that I'm working with has a lot of experience working for big publishers, and the goal is to take this book after the Kickstarter version is printed and given to to all my backers, that I will take the book to publishers and try to get it published from one of the larger publishers. And the book will certainly change when they get their, if they agree to do it, they'll certainly modify it.
Stop yourself from saying grubby mitts. When they get their hands on it, they're going to change it. That's
yeah. No, but I also think that makes this Kickstarter book kind of more appealing, because this is it's going to be a solid.
More raw. It's more real.
Yeah, but it's also essentially like you're getting my manuscript in a way. So there's going to be things in there that don't make it to the other book, and the other book may have things that happen in between there. So it's kind of neat. I don't know if that's answering your question, Dal, about why writing the book.
Yeah, you really did, but I think you can expand on it a little more by. Now we know why you wrote the book. Now, what about the book you're writing, Exposed and Fearless? First of all, why those two words, exposed and fearless? What does it mean?
What are you wanting the reader to gain from this book? Like, what's 100 years from now with this book on the shelf? What difference do you want it to make in the world? What's the goal?
Before I answer that, I want to just give a little background to it. I've had like a really cool life experience so far, amazing life experience so far, and with the different jobs that I've had and do, I've been able to meet firsthand people that just absolutely amaze me. I mean, these are people that whether they're well known or not well known are doing things that the average person is not doing. And I've also learned that the average person can do it. Like they're not, while they are all super talented, it's not so much the talent that has gotten them where they are. It's their focus and their drive and their commitment to doing certain things that they love that has gotten them to where they are, and along that path, their experience in it has put them at a level of talent beyond, the normal, regular people. So I want the reader, when they read that, these are people. It's random. On the surface, it's random people, but they're people that I know personally. They're people that I've worked with, that I've spent time with, and that I've experienced them doing what they do personally. And I want them to get out of it, from the exposed portion of the book, that we can achieve what we want to achieve, and there are a lot of obstacles that are put in our life that prevent you from maybe achieving it at that point, or psychologically barring you from trying to achieve it, continuing on that path. And when you read about what these people do and how they do it to get over those obstacles, get around those obstacles, but not let them hold them back, that's what I want them to get out of the exposed part of it. And the fearless part of it is, we don't do a lot of things because we're afraid. And some people do things because they're afraid. And I think fear can be used so much better as a motivator instead of a deterrent of doing things. So understanding fear, understanding where it comes from, and how you can minimize it and how you can use it to your advantage is another key thing that I want to get across.
All right, I have two questions for you. So,
Yes.
Someone wants to borrow my book, and I tell them, you can't have the whole book. I'm going to tear out a chapter to keep for myself. Which chapter should I tear out?
My introduction.
No, not which. In other words, and specifically the fearless or exposed. I'm curious. Which part do you feel like is going to be? If I only had 10 minutes to pick up the book and just kind of get the most out of it, would I benefit most from learning about the fearless side of things or the exposed side of things? And the follow-up question to that is, which one? And maybe there's not an answer to this. I'm surprised I've never asked you this before, but which one comes first, chicken or the egg? Like, do I put myself out there and do the whole exposure thing and then conquer the fearless part, or do I become fearless and that's what leads to the exposure? Is there one leads to the other? But first I want to know, which chapter do I rip out? Which do I keep and reread?
Well, honestly, there's a conclusion chapter, and some of the feedback that I've been getting from the editor, who has no magic experience, looked at my Kickstarter video and page, and then looked at what I've written and sent her. One of the things that she said to me was, on the kind of exposed part, what I was kind of pitching in the Kickstarter is that you're going to find out how they really do these things. And for instance, commenting on the chapter that I have on Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer, she said that a lot of the chapter seems like it's focused on you recounting experience with him, like a day with him on his live show and all of that. And where's the secret? Where are you exposing the secret? And that will really come together in the conclusion of the book. So you're going to read what these people are doing and how they're doing, but I'm going to tie it all together at the end of the end of the chapters on the individual people in this kind of conclusion. And you're going to see that, hey, I talk about Cesar Millan, the dog whisperer. I talk about David Copperfield, the greatest illusionist. I talk about so many other people that are not really related, but there's a commonality about all of them in achieving what they've achieved. So definitely, I think the conclusion.
And which one? So, what is there an order to this whole? Like, is there 7 habits, kind of follow this. This is what I recommend for harnessing your fears and getting the most out of them. This is what I recommend for exposing yourself. Like, is there a formula revealed in this book?
There's a formula for fearless. The exposed part is more. It's not. I kind of describe it. You know, there are definitely different definitions of exposed. I wanna just grab what I have. It's the exposure you are probably most interested in is the how. I don't like to. Let me wonder of not knowing. Okay, I will be pulling back the curtain on my friends in this book, but not in a masked magician exposing age-old secrets of magic kind of way. So you will not be learning any techniques of how David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty vanish. You will learn, in essence, how David Copperfield was able to make the Statue of Liberty vanish. He put himself in position to pull off how he put himself in position to pull off the most famous illusion of our time. So it's an exposure not of, you know, how mechanically they do something, but in essence how they're able to as a human accomplish something in their life. So there isn't really a secret formula to that. I mean, but your exposure to it's almost like if you're exposed enough and told this thing enough times in your life and you see enough examples of it, the light bulb will go on, and yeah, that's how that's how it's going to work. So I don't think anything that I say in the exposed portions of this is going to be something that people will be like, oh my God, I never thought of that. I never knew of that. No, it isn't. It's stuff that we definitely know. But maybe if you're exposed to more people and how they, and the fact that they did it this way, that it starts to sink in. Okay, maybe I need to do this way as well.
Fascinating. So, are you saying? Because I've always thought the title of the book, "Exposed and Fearless," was kind of telling me to be exposed and fearless, but it sounded more like the exposed part of it is secrets revealed of these other people, not so much you should be exposing yourself. Is that
right? Yes.
Some of both.
Yeah, but that's not to say in the fearless portion of it, it does allude to that you do have to put yourself out there. You do have to take that step off the ledge and know that there's something there to catch you.
Yeah. That's a new concept
Brian,
for me, because in my mind the book was always about putting yourself out there. Like I thought that was the main theme of the book.
And it's too late for you to not back the project. You're already...
I'm still excited to read it.
Okay.
But for me, that is an interesting element, because again, back to the Kickstarter thing, that is part of success. I think that is I think that's probably what we'll read about in your final chapter, is these people that are successful weren't necessarily afraid of failure. I've personally heard a lot of stories of people that say that the lack of creativity is just a fear of failure. That we get in this habit of going, there's a right and a wrong answer, and so you just conform to the norm, and when you're just conforming, you're not going to do great and amazing things. But if you're not afraid of failure, then that's when you start to do these things that are a little bit above and beyond what normally happens. And so that's what I thought the exposure was like a Kickstarter. You go, okay, I'm willing to fall on my face publicly. I'm gonna involve all my friends and family and neighbors and Facebook friends, and I'm gonna tell them I'm writing a book. And there's nothing more public than Kickstarter. Like if people don't back you, you're looking at a big goose egg, and the whole world knows it, and it's up there. You can't take it down. It's out there forever, and you'll forever have a unsuccessful. But if you spend enough time on Kickstarter, you'll see some of the most successful Kickstarters have failures before them. They've raised $100,000, $200,000, but if you look at their history, they created a project 6 months earlier that couldn't get over the $600 mark. And I like that about Kickstarter, is there is a level of transparency that is true. People see David Copperfield and they just see all the successes he's had and don't realize that, yeah, he had some stumbling blocks along the way.
And that's what I in talking with Copperfield, that's what I focused on, was he had a period of time after he did The Magic Man as a teenager in Chicago and was on top of the world as a teenager starring in the show, moving back to New York, and he really struggled for for a little bit of time there. And I talked to him about his fears in that time frame, his struggles, his how he would take different opportunities, what opportunities he would take, and how he would work with them. And it was to me that was one of the most fascinating talks that I had, because he is someone that has done a bunch of interviews. As a magician myself, and being young, I've idolized him forever and would read and try and see anything that he ever did. And I really didn't think he was going to say anything in this interview that I felt like I could write the answers. I knew what he was going to say, and I could write all the answers to the questions that he had. And there were three things that in particular that I was like, wow, really? I really didn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And I'm not going to tell you now, because you're going to try and figure it out when you read the book. So, but yeah, no, that was an exciting kind of, I don't want to say exciting, but a surprising element in this process of putting together the book.
I think you've got some very interesting subjects that you've interviewed for this book. One of the most fascinating ones to me is Richard Turner, the magician. He was on CBS this morning, just yesterday.
Yeah.
And, so, Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah.
He's not as well known, but an amazing guy.
Yeah, and my portion in the book about Richard is different, because he's in the middle of filming a documentary about his life. He has a book about his life being written by John Rockenbauer. I can never pronounce his last name correctly, but
you did fine.
What's that?
You did fine.
Okay. So when I talked to Richard about it, we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything that John's doing in his book. And I said, no, don't worry, Richard. That's not what I'm going for. The Exposed and Fearless book is about my personal interaction with you, and the chapter on Richard is primarily about a couple days that I've spent with him on the road in between shows. And it was a show called Conned with Todd Robbins was essentially like the host of the show. Banachek was in the show, and Bob Arno, who's an amazing pickpocket, was in the show. And it's just a great show. And my friend produced it and created it, and I just wanted to be around it because I loved everything that he was doing about it. And in being around it, they're like, hey, why don't you drive? Richard, why don't you drive with Vinny from one city to the next? And we spent a lot of time together, him and his son Asa.
You didn't let Richard drive.
He would. I mean, there are stories. You got to read John's book, but there are stories of Richard riding a motorcycle blind. So
yeah.
For the people that don't know, Richard Turner is absolutely the most amazing card mechanic, sleight of hand, gambling card mechanic in the world. And that's not my opinion. That's probably one of the greatest teacher of magic, Di Vernon, That's from his words exactly. So the greatest card mechanic of our time. But he lost his vision, and he never likes to talk about it. And he does shows where he doesn't even want people to know that he can't see, and he does the whole show, and people had no idea that he couldn't see. In fact, when he does his segment in Con, the show Con, the first portion that he does, the audience doesn't know that his vision is impaired. And it isn't until afterwards when Todd Robbins will come out and explain that, because I mean, there's a guy that's also has, I don't know what degree, black belt. It's an amazing degree black belt, and one of the stories that he told us, he's at this same level as Chuck Norris in the same discipline of martial arts, but just stories of taking the mat in Japan. Him, Chuck Norris, and some other guys with a showdown of some Japanese folks. Some amazing stories. But in the car rides with him and spending the time, one of the things that I talk about in the book is, so he's lost his vision, but that hasn't held him back in any way, shape, or form. He's a consultant for the U.S. Playing Card Company, and they give him like 10 decks of cards. 5 of them are labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, and the other ones are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he will play with the cards, feel the cards, and then make mental notes, and then sometimes tell his son Asa, write this down for this one or this. And then U.S. Playing Card Company will call him up and ask him which cards are the same. So the letters have to match up with the numbers, and there are 10 decks, but there are only 5 styles of decks. And when I mean by styles is only 5 where the card is the same, the paper is the same paper stock, the finish is the same finish on it, the cut is the same direction or block. I mean, all these different variables and elements that go into producing a deck of cards. And he'll start off and let them know which ones he thinks are the same, and that's their control. And when he gets that correct, they know that he knows what he's on his game, because he's doing this all with the feel of his hands. And then he's just on the phone telling them what they need to change, what he likes, what he doesn't like about a certain finish or cardstock or any of that, and giving them advice. And it just, I'm sitting there driving and look like, are you kidding me? Is this really going on? So it's kind of that kind of background, behind the scenes information and stories that I'm going to be talking about with Richard. I mean, from that to his workouts to everything else that just will blow your mind. That was a real long answer to that short question. Sorry, Dow.
No, speaking of long answer, you're probably going to want to wrap up here soon. So I want to make sure we cover your experience in the realm of Exposed and Fearless, and having been on Kickstarter and working on this show that you're going to premiere here pretty soon. I want to hear your perspective of the things you've learned, you are learning, and your journey of Exposed and Fearless.
Wow. When I set up, because Brian had helped me, there was no way I could have gotten the Kickstarter project done or have been nearly as successful as it was without Brian's help. So, I mean, some of the things that I thought were good ideas throughout, and Brian is, if you ever want an honest friend, I'd get Brian.
Painfully honest.
Yeah, because I learned to preface emails with him. I really, really like this. Please don't crush me, but what do you think? So he has no problem saying that's really bad, and you shouldn't do that.
But only to the people I love.
Okay, that kind of makes it feel better. But,
there you go.
So, in setting up the Kickstarter, Brian had a piece of advice that he got from someone else, and he lived it. And if you look at him on Kickstarter, he's under Teach by Magic under Kickstarter. You can see he had a very successful first project, and then the second one is just
Wildly successful.
4 times more successful. And he was told, do a Kickstarter that you don't really, not that you don't really care about, but one that isn't your so close to your heart, your big, most important kind of project that you want to do, because you need to experience it and go through it to learn it, and you can't be afraid to fail with one. And Brian mentioned too about other people that have had uber successful Kickstarter projects that have failures in the past, but it's getting that experience, and that's part of the piece in being fearless, is the knowledge I talk about in the book and in my talk and in the show, is knowledge and experience. So I was going on Brian's experience with his first Kickstarter, not having that firsthand experience, and a lot of the things that he said to me, I didn't necessarily understand, and I don't think I had the ability to understand because I didn't have that experience. But I would say the majority of the things I just trusted him blindly and did, and it paid off. It was successful for me, but I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it was, and I thought I had a pretty good idea of how difficult it was going to be, but it was still much more difficult than it was. And then even planning this project out, I was like, oh, March 21st, I'll have the book done. I'll have the book done before Christmas, and people will get it early so they could, give it away at the, the holidays. Not knowing that, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and Hanukkah came at Thanksgiving. So once that came, I was like, oh, geez. I thought I had another month for you guys, but no, that didn't happen either. So it never stops giving you kind of motivation to, it isn't a relaxing, or I'm not sipping wine as I do any of this. It's throughout the entire process. It's certainly been not a struggle, but it's been intense, and it's going to be up until the last book is shipped out and that show is done. But getting back to why doing this, I mean, come March 21st, I'm going to have a book done. I'm going to have a show that I've been wanting to do for years done, and I'm still doing this talk. So I am going to, be in a position to really now move forward with this thing that has been really important to me for so long, and the thing that I see myself really thriving in long term with.
Awesome.
I don't think I've answered anything that you asked, Brian.
That's it. You just did it. No, I think that is the take-home message for everyone in life. Is just do it. Just get her done, and just put yourself out there and get it done. And so that answers that. I do think that we all still want to know, like, at the end of the day, what's your fear? Like, what, we've been beating around this bush. You've exposed us as our tremors and speech impediments. Mm-hmm. What's Vinny's?
Certainly with this project, my fear is that, a lot of people here that backed me it's because they believe that this book is going to be good, or this show is going to be good, or both of it's going to be good. I have incredible anxiety that in my head I think this is all going to be wonderful, but what if they read the book and be like, wow, this is ridiculous. I can't believe I backed this project. Or this show is horrible. Why do you even perform? You're a terrible performer. I mean, I can't tell you how much fear I have about that. I have a tremendous amount of fear, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to do it as well as I possibly can. And I know I will be able to do it, continue to do it better, and I know just doing it is going to put that line in the sand of, okay, here I am, as opposed to just imagining where I am. I'll know where I am and can work to get better, to make the show even better, and the talk even better, and maybe the next version of the book even better. So.
Well, and that's like you said earlier. It's that fear that we as backers can know is going to be good. It's because you are driven. It's because you call us almost daily saying, what do you think about this? What if I did this? Should I do this? And, you know, whether you call it fear or whether you call it passion or concern, it's kind of a blurry line, but you care. And that's the take-home message for all your backers is you do care. There's project creators out there that just take the money and run. I've heard several stories of people just taking a trip to France with the money and sending pictures. But at the end of the day, I'm confident that we're going to get a solid product. And more than that, part of the Kickstarter culture is supporting you. And I know that we are supporting something really cool, that you will go on to do more of these performances, and these books will be on the shelves and will inspire people. And I personally am proud to be a part of that. Like, that's the exciting part, is knowing how many people's lives will be touched by this. So
yeah,
thanks.
As for myself, I'm already inspired just to see you doing this. So so Brian, I'll be calling you later and talking to you about my Kickstarter project.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, hey, one of these things is not like the other. When's yours coming out, Dal? On that note, Vinny, do you think you'll do another Kickstarter in the future? Because it is brutal. People always underestimate how brutal it is.
Yeah, I definitely will. And I've mentioned this to you in the past, but I think I'm doing it opposite. I did my most important one first, and then this one, not that it's not important, but it isn't. I want to do a deck of cards for Exposed and Fearless that I will use in the show, give out in the show, and I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it because I want to make money on the thing. Again, it's just doing it because I need to do it, and if people like it and want to support it and get a cool deck of cards, you know, they can. But I'm not going to, as brutal as Kickstarters can be, I'm not going to do it in a way that's going to be real stressful. So I know I really sold the crap out of that, but
no, I think what you're saying is it's a complementary project, and I think you're absolutely right. You'll have a second project's always easier than the first one, just because of the learning curve and the stretching that goes on. You know what you're getting into. You've already got a little bit of a following, but the nature of a book versus a deck of cards, it'll be easier.
I mean, I'll put it out there, but I'm not gonna like try and guilt family and friends. Like, well, if you don't love me, no. If you like it and you think it's cool, great. If not, no worries. I got it anyway. I'm taking care of it.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah.
When are you gonna launch this project?
I would probably say May timeframe. I would go with around May. I want to make sure the whole book and show is solid and done, and some other projects that I have going on in my life are taken care of. So probably May.
I like that you said May and not early summer. You boxed yourself in a little bit more. I thought you were going to go for the early summer, because that's very vague.
Well, it's May, so mark your calendar. You're going to hear a lot from me in April.
Very good. Looking forward to it.
I just want to say one other quick thing. Again, remind people you can go to exposedandfearless.com for information about the preview in Saratoga of the show, as well as the 2 shows after the premiere in New York City on March 22nd. Looking forward to seeing my Kickstarter backers on March 21st. Have some special guests that will be in the audience as well. Thank you guys very much for watching the webcast, and feel free to contact me through Kickstarter or on Facebook or anywhere else if you have any questions or comments about it. Love to hear from you guys. I cannot thank Dal and Brian enough for helping me with this webcast. And anybody have a parting thought, or that sounded pretty good?
That sounded great. Well done, Vinny.
Great. Thank you guys very much,
Good,
and look forward to sending out your books. Good night, everyone.
Good night.